Chicago and New York, because what we saw on Friday is not what democracy looks like. I said what we saw on Friday is not what democracy looks like. We all saw the video, we all saw the evidence, and we saw the behavior of a judge that is unbecoming anybody who is giving justice a free hand in a land of law. And we know what we saw. And there's a verdict in the courtroom, but all over America there's a verdict on the street. That verdict is guilty. Somebody say guilty. They're guilty. They're guilty. They're guilty. They're guilty. So we are marching all over America for the purpose of making sure that people like Kyle Rittenhouse understand and know that we're not going to be intimidated, we're not going to be frightened, and we're not going to be silent. We know across this country that there's been legislation that's passed that allows individuals to hit protesters and receive no civil or state penalties. States like Florida and Texas make it law that you can hit somebody. Well, this verdict yesterday puts protesters in harm's way. It says that you can walk amongst peaceful protesters. You can come across state lines, and you will be vindicated, and you will be justified with vigilante justice. It is our right to march. It is our responsibility and obligation to march. And we will not be intimidated, and we will not be silenced. So I want to thank all of these organizations that have come. As far as from Chicago, this might be the best justice that they can buy. But we know that when we march and when we demonstrate and when we protest, and this is not just here in Kenosha, we're taking it all the way to the White House. We want to thank Reverend Jesse Jackson and other civil rights leaders who are meeting with congressional leaders on tomorrow, demanding that the Department of Justice open a review on this case. There were federal laws broken when Kyle Rittenhouse came to this city, pretending to be a police officer, he was not. Pretending to be a fireman, he was not. Pretending to be a paramedic, he was not. This judge took it upon himself to take and dismiss a charge that was pivotal to this case. We want this district attorney not only investigated, we're going to work in this city to get him elected out of office. We want him out of office. We want him out of office. We're going to work across this country to dismantle this type and brand of justice that makes it about white and black instead of it being right. We are not going to forget Jacob Blake Jr. I said we are not going to forget Jacob Blake Jr. I said we are not going to forget Jacob Blake Jr. He was shot 7 times in the back. 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 And we're as mad as hell that this officer is still working on this force. So we're going to mobilize, organize. And this fight is not over. It has just begun. And the feet of freedom are now loose on the streets of America. Let freedom ring. For all of our brothers and sisters who are marching, and you haven't marched with us before, these are hand signs when we're moving. These are hand signs when we're stopping. And we will only use this third time, and it has never been used before, but under the circumstances it may be. When we sweep down, that means everybody can get down but the security personnel only. Is that understood? I can't hear you. Is that understood? We are family. We're looking out for each other. We will never let harm come your way on our watch. But we must all move together. I mean, your eyes are swivel. If you see some of the security guys and something's not right, bring it to their attention, and they'll let us know about it, and we'll act accordingly. You are ralliers and peaceful marchers. We have security to handle security things. We ask you to please, and this is Uncle Justin talking to Little Jake, please adhere to our rules and regulations. Thanks to lock leaders of Kenosha, we've thrown probably up to this point over 100 events since we've been here, since Little Jake got shot. And we haven't had to use either duct tape or a little piece of blood to cover it up, because I'm supposed to instruct them to put duct tape on and get back to work. Alright? So we love you, we love you! We love you! We love you! Alright, so what we're going to do is get our security perimeter set up so we can start marching. We're going to have the speakers when we get back. And we thank you all for recognizing that an injustice thing just happened with Little Jake, with Anthony and JoJo, and Gage, and that you actively want to be change makers, and that's why you're here today. You are our heroes. Please, let's follow the rules that are set amongst us. We have some special speakers here to my big brother Dave down from Milwaukee. Give it up for Dave! We love him every time TTR hits the street. I can almost assure you, he with him. So we got some real people, elected officials and others that will be speaking. Our Uncle Jesse will not be able to make it today, is that correct? He's going down to speak to the Congress tomorrow. He's trying to get here, but he can't be two places in one. That's why we send Deanna Austin around the country with my brother Big Jake. They just put in jail a police officer of murder in Kansas. I can't remember the name of the family, but Jake texted to us, so when we talk about the speeches, we'll be able to tell you their name. I felt like the city helped Julius Jones. Yes. Julius Jones. Julius Jones. Julius Jones. This man was less than 24 hours from going to the chair. We got on our knees in front of national television and asked that they save his life. And a little piece, if we weren't but a seed, mustard seed, or that little piece of straw that broke the camel's back, that man is alive today. That man's alive today. So we thank you guys for continuing to fight. It's just not Kenosha. We are national, and everything we do is national. So everybody, please hold fast. If there's somebody wants to come up and say something while we're getting our marching team together, please do so. If not, hold fast.
heavily armed.
Sick.
Told.
You guys,
Over here.
Yeah, we're gonna march, I guess, right now.
You know,
I'm right there with you. I know where you're at, and I'm gonna match that.
I got you here.
Of the universe, we come before you this afternoon seeking justice for the families of JoJo and Anthony, seeking justice for our community here in Kenosha and our state here in Wisconsin. And Lord, not only do we seek justice, but we seek your comfort. You promise to be near the brokenhearted and care for the crushed in spirit. And so, Lord, we lift up JoJo's family. We lift up Anthony's family in this weekend that is a crushing blow. As they see this injustice firsthand, we ask your healing and comforting touch. And we ask that all of us continue to hold them in prayer. And not only them, but we continue to lift up little Jake. Lord, we know that you can do miraculous and powerful things. We know that little Jake is a very strong man. And so, Lord, we ask for your miracle. We ask that he walk again. We ask your healing touch upon him in this very moment. And Lord, you tell us that when we see something that is not right, and a 17-year-old coming into our community and murdering two people certainly is that. Lord, you tell us to seek justice. You tell us to stand up And so, Lord, as this group of people comes together to stand up, to seek justice, to address what is not right, we ask for courage, strength, and protection. We pray all this in your powerful, wonderful, and mighty name. Amen.
Just for the record, this is Reverend Pastor Jonathan from the Lutheran Church here in town. My brother that we've been getting in good trouble with. Everybody has some shelter to go to. In Kenosha, the shelter is their church. They feed hot meals twice a week. They've marched with us. They've been to every event with us. They also serve boxes of food out on Tuesday. Kenosha, this is one of their gyms. There's no doubt. I don't know that the mayor even knows the man's name, but we know his name, and we thank him for his service. Next up, say your name. And this is JoJo's fiance. Just want to say a couple of words. We're not taking questions. She merely wants to stand in unity with the Blake family, with LOC, leaders of Kenosha, and many other organizations that came forth today to speak loud that this was an incredible and just act, and that we're going to keep marching, we're going to keep rallying. We don't have to throw bricks and Molly cocktails anymore. We're going to hit them with an economic crush and blow that's going to show Kenosha that they got to change their ways. Please say something.
The biggest thing that I want to say is that it feels like these men that died, that their lives do not matter, and they do matter. There are loved ones that are left behind that are grieving them right now. And we have no closure to that, none whatsoever. So I'm just asking that everybody please remember their names. Please remember their names, because JoJo and Anthony meant something to people, and they're gone. So if their lives don't matter, then none of our lives matter. And we need to fix that.
How did you feel when the verdict came out?
Say their name!
Anthony and JoJo!
Say their name!
Anthony and JoJo!
Say their name!
Anthony and JoJo!
Next on the mic is my big brother, Bishop from Rainbow Push Coalition, who's been down supporting the Blake family since day one, now supporting Anthony JoJo's family to uplift them. Bishop.
This is a sad day and sad moment in American history. We've never had a situation of this egregious and this injurious to so many Americans around the country. This verdict that gives way and validates vigilante justice. Kyle Rittenhouse, we saw for ourselves. We saw the video, we saw the evidence, we heard the witnesses. We felt the pain of these family members, and we know what injustice looks like. And all over America this weekend and the days thereafter, the feet of freedom are taking the streets of America. Reverend Jesse Jackson is meeting with congressional leaders as we speak to make a formal appeal to the Department of Justice to open a review on this case. It is wrong in a land of laws for any individual to shoot 3 people and kill 2 of them in a peaceful protest where people are exercising their First Amendment right of freedom of speech and the right to publicly protest in peace. This judge took it upon himself to dismiss one of the most serious charges that Kyle Rittenhouse faced. A minor carrying a weapon, a loaded weapon, unlicensed. He doesn't even have a damn license to drive a car.
Talk about
We're outraged about this.
Talk about it.
And we're going to turn our pain into power.
That's right.
We understand that the governor was here today. You cannot meet without us.
That's right.
You cannot have a discussion without us.
Go ahead.
You cannot have a plan without us.
Go ahead.
You cannot have any type of arrangement without talking to the people.
Go ahead.
Because people power now makes a difference.
That's right.
People pain now makes a difference. And we want justice in this case. This was a case similar to Eric Garner,
Talk about it.
Trayvon Martin, and as far back as Emmett Till. And those that want to accept the verdict, we didn't accept Emmett Till's verdict.
There you go.
We didn't accept the verdict in Eric Gardner. We didn't accept the verdict in Trayvon Martin. And we will not accept this verdict. We have other alternatives, and we have other options. And we're going to use peace and protest and civil disobedience. And people using the power that we have the means that we have to make sure that this does not happen again. Imagine Ahmaud Arbery under the presumption, jogging under presumption. The presumption because he's black. The presumption that 3 white people who are supporting Jacob Blake Jr. And we will not forget Jacob Blake Jr. He will not be unforgotten here in Kenosha or anywhere in this country. This is a new day. Those who finance this defense, those who are using him as a poster child for justice, you've just awakened a giant. You've just awakened the conscience of a people that will not take no for an answer. We want justice and we're going to get it. And it starts today in Kenosha.
All right.
Let freedom ring.
All right. No justice!
No peace!
No justice!
No peace!
No justice!
No peace!
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Justin Blake. I'm the uncle of Jacob Blake that was shot 7 times in the back in front of his children and paralyzed by police officer Shetsky. And we just want to thank all those people out there that are moving and working and using their money and their efforts to make things behind the scene go wrong, because it's given us the coalition and the cohesiveness to bring all these beautiful people out today. We in the country have never worked this hard. When the Haitians were being disrupted at the border, Big Jake, Bianca Austin, and myself, Breonna Taylor's aunt, Bianca Austin, went back to Chicago to the Federal Building to stand with the Haitian brothers and sisters. If it's wrong, it's wrong.
That's right.
And there's not a fight that the Blake family doesn't want to be in around this country to help get African Americans what's overdue. The check that Martin Luther King was talking about that's yet to be cashed. It's way overdue. We made this country the wealthiest country in the world through 300, 400 years of free labor in slavery. If anybody deserves to vote, we deserve to vote. If anybody deserves the civil liberties that were abused in this case by a Caucasian young man that was 17 years old, we deserve those rights. We're paying for the people that shoot us in our backs. We're paying the taxes for the people that kneel upon our neck or come into our home and shoot us down in our homes while we wear our slippers and our bedrobes. They never thought we'd be touching phone calls and shaking hands and having dinners across this nation and develop the family situation that we have today. We were able to secure a guilty verdict in Kansas City on a police officer that nobody even knows about. Nobody knows about it. I got to Google the name myself. My brother was down there for last week when the trial was coming to a close. What does that show you? That shows us that we're going to be everywhere. Jesse couldn't be here today, but we got Bishop. Jesse's going to be in D.C., and we're going to be still fighting. We have soldiers on the street that were drinking tea and coffee until they heard what happened. They put it down and got out here on the streets today. This is a historical time, and I want people to understand that. The precedents this court set will go on for the next 50 to 100 years, if not corrected immediately. That means that our African descendants that marched in the streets in 2020 by the millions, in our eyes, I can see them being gunned down in a dream that jumped up the other night. We can't allow this to happen. This judge somehow needs to be censored, or he said he's going to retire. Please go ahead on. Because we need people to sit on the bench with jurisprudence that is non-biased. We don't know this man's background. He put his hand on the scale at every point he had. They couldn't see the pictures before he threw up the Proud Boy sign, nor when he did it in the bar. They couldn't hear the video when he said he couldn't wait to shoot somebody, name the gun, and then 60 or 40 days later, 2 people are shot and dead, 3rd one wounded. When have you ever seen somebody who's charged with murder stand behind a judge while they watch a video?
Never happened.
These things have never happened. This wasn't covert, it was overt, and I hope everybody has their eyes open. We are fighting racism head on, because they're not bowing down They're not going to roll over and give us power. We all know in the next 10 to 15 years, Asians, Hispanic, and African Americans, women are going to be in the White House. Generally, it'll take a hell of a trip for a white man to get himself up in there. So things are changing. We recognize that, and that's the fight that we face. Democratic parties to a Republican party is usually peaceful. Republican to Democratic, usually peaceful until last year when January 6th happened. So if you don't think this is serious, January 6th happened. The most time anybody got was 2 years. This is historic. The young man shooting somebody, murder him on tape. He admits to it on stand. Yet he goes home. If it was an African-American young man carrying that style of weapon, there would be no court like there was none for Jacob Blake. He'd have been shot down in the damn street, and that would have been the end of the story.
Yes.
So let's not play with this. This is serious. And let me tell you something this morning. President Biden sold us out. He betrayed our family. He betrayed the people behind us. He did nothing for us. And this goes all the way to the White House. Where has he been for the Floyd family? Bianca Austin can't sleep at night for the Taylor family or Auntie the Taylor because nothing's been done. Big Jake just walks around sometimes and I don't know if he's with us or not because nothing's been done. And this man stood in this gentleman's church to my right and told Big Jake to hold his feet to the fire. Well, we want to come to the White House. That's what we want. We want to come to the White House and we want somebody to explain to us why this continues to happen and what the hell they're going to do about it. Because now they've stirred up the people and there's no power like the people. And we will not stop until we get answers, till we change laws, till we get people out of office, and till we demo this whole unjust situation. So we thank everybody for coming out today. Big ups to the red, black, and green. Unity now, one Africa.
Let me say this. We want those who have sympathized with Kyle Rittenhouse show the same sympathy for Crystal Kaiser.
That's right.
You know, Crystal Kaiser.
That's right.
Crystal Kaiser.
Crystal Kaiser.
Crystal Kaiser.
Crystal Kaiser.
Crystal Kaiser. Crystal Kaiser deserves the same sympathy.
This is a young
Right
lady.
here in Kenosha. She's in jail
That's right.
since 2018.
That's right.
At the age of 16.
Come on.
In sex trafficking and prostitution.
Go ahead.
This same prosecutorial office
Go ahead.
blocked her right to use self-defense.
Wow.
Self-defense in an altercation where she ended up killing her abuser. And this same office now, after it was appealed, after it was turned over, it is not just this judge that's the problem. There are many judges in this courthouse that's the problem. And the appeals court.
System is guilty as hell.
This judge was overturned, and now it's before the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Well, show Crystal Kaiser the same attention.
That's right.
Show her the same sympathy. Make her a hero.
That's right.
Every woman, every women's organization
That's right. Where
should
you
be
at?
in these streets
ahead.
fighting for Crystal Kaiser's freedom.
That's right.
Go ahead.
How in the hell is she involved in sex trafficking?
Go ahead.
Used as a prostitute. And the evidence speaks for itself. And she's held without bail
Lord.
right here in Kenosha County.
My Lord.
Not anywhere else, right here. This is the corner of America. And we're not going away. We're going to fight for Crystal Kaiser. We're going to fight for Crystal Kaiser. We're going to fight for Jacob Blake Jr. And there are many other black and brown defendants that are held in this county and across this state and are doing time that they shouldn't be doing time. We've had enough. It's time to fight back.
We got one of our elected officials that always comes down to join us. Every time they march in Milwaukee, if I don't see this face, they not marching. Please, it's your mic, brother. Do your thing.
Isaiah 61:8 says, I, the Lord, love justice. There is no peace without justice.
That's right.
And we are here as people who love each other. We are here as people who love our families. And we'd like nothing more than on a Sunday to spend time with our families.
That's right.
What?
But some of us cannot stand
Go ahead.
injustice.
Go ahead.
Right.
Go ahead.
Some of us are moved so much that we have to separate ourselves from our families
Go ahead.
and get in the streets and
Go
get
ahead.
in the community to demand that things change. Because it has not changed. When Jacob Blake was shot in the back 7 times, it has not changed.
Come on, come on.
When people who came out not to cause violence, not to destroy things, they came out to have their voices heard, and they were met with tanks in this very park that we're standing in. They were met with aggression, not just from law enforcement agencies, but from white militia groups who believe in white supremacy.
Come on.
This is a fight against fascism.
Come on.
Go ahead.
Come on.
Call it what it is.
This is a fight that we must be endured in for the sake of our children, for the sake of the future of our communities. And we can't stay still.
That's right.
We can't be quiet. Some of us have tried, and it irks us so bad that we have to get up and do something about
That's
it.
right. That's right.
So when we come out, we don't need to be threatened for our lives just because we speak out to change the future for our kids, to change the future of our state. Kyle Rittenhouse made it very much harder for this state to come together. He made it very much harder for us to see the humanity in each other, for us to have empathy for each other's experiences in this community. And many of us were here much before he decided to get here. Much of us were here already advocating for us to address these issues that make Wisconsin one of the worst places to raise a black child. So what we are doing here today is to take the narrative back.
That's right. That's right.
He gets to leave this state again while we are here to do the real work
That's right.
of uniting this state,
That's right.
of uniting our communities, and changing this once and for all. And if you believe in justice, like the bishop says, Crystal Kaiser believes that she needs justice too.
That's right. That's right.
Crystal Kaiser was in this building advocating for her justice too.
That's right.
And we didn't hear any of y'all.
That's right.
And we didn't hear anybody that was out making noises for Kyle Rittenhouse. Now you got a chance to prove yourself.
That's right.
Now you got a chance to change the narrative. That if you truly believe in justice, just like the Lord believes in justice, that you too can fight for justice for that black woman who deserves it.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
And lastly, I want to say this. We need our leaders.
Come on.
That's right.
Come on.
Where
We
you
need
at?
we need our leaders.
Come on.
That's right. Where you at?
Come on.
We need our leaders.
Go ahead.
Because it's going to take some courageous
Go
conversations.
ahead. Go ahead.
To not be afraid and just get quiet. And be silent so we can keep votes in certain parts of the
My
state.
Lord.
Come
My
on.
Lord.
Come on.
My
Come
Lord.
Or
on.
we don't make certain populations mad.
Come on.
JoJo and Anthony are easily to be thrown away because they advocated for black people.
Come on.
Go ahead.
We're going to be honest about that.
Come on.
Yes,
Call
sir.
it. Come on.
Thank you. Thank you,
They
Joe.
used to call them N-word lovers.
Come on.
Thank
Come
you, Joe.
on.
Thank you,
That's
Joe.
history right there.
Come
Thank
on.
you, Joe.
So we are not going to throw away their lives either.
That's right.
We're going to advocate for their lives too.
Talk about
Yes,
it.
sir.
We're going to advocate for their families too.
That's right.
Beautiful.
This state won't get better until we advocate for all of us.
That's right.
We can keep sweeping stuff under the rug, but it still means it's dirt under there.
Yes, sir.
It still means that there's something wrong under there,
Yes, sir.
and it has to be addressed. So I'm proud to stand with these families. I'm proud to stand with these leaders, these faith leaders, and we're going to keep going because we easily could give up. We easily could stop at this moment, but we are not. And that's what defines us. Thank you so much.
I got one more thing to add in. I got a call last night from an attorney, a nationally known and internationally known attorney. And if there's people out there, because I know you're watching, whether you be an athlete, entertainer, or just somebody who happens to have a barrel of money behind the bar, we want to fight some of these things legally. Please reach out to Locke. Please reach out to Push. We want to get in these courtrooms. We got lawyers that want to fight for us. We got issues, but it takes money. We're doing the job on the street. We're not going to let you down here. But we are asking those to, on a Sunday, whether you're Muslim, Christian, Jews, whatever, to reach down in your soul of souls. If you're a true believer in whatever religion you are, this is wrong as hell. And the only way we can correct the large part of it is with financial backing, so we can take it on in these courtrooms, so we can take on these companies that fund this foolishness. We're going to put an economic hurting on them over the holidays that they'll never forget. Kenosha would never forget. The $2 million that was raised wasn't raised here in Kenosha. That was all across this nation. So if you want to bring across the nation those people that are racist, that hate us, then we're going to reach across the nation too and see how we come out. Any questions from the, we got one more coming on. What's up, Justin?
Hi, my name is Jess. I'm a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation and a resident of Kenosha.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm happy to see everyone here. The police shoot us in the back, abuse us with their tear gas, rubber bullets, kidnapped us off the streets. White militias have terrorized us with political repression under the guise of protection of property, and we're still out here.
Come on, come on.
So please give yourself a hand for being out here today and remaining steadfast in the face of injustice. The Party for Socialism and Liberation joined millions of people across the country in expressing our complete outrage at the acquittal of Kyle Rittenhouse on all charges. Once again, the U.S. court system has functioned to protect a racist murderer.
Yep.
That's right.
All the way it is.
The verdict is an infuriating reminder of the fundamentally white supremacist nature of the capitalist legal system in the United States. The acquittal of Rittenhouse has tremendous, dangerous ramifications.
Yes, sir.
It effectively hands a license to kill to right-wing vigilantes who will now feel more empowered to terrorize people in the name of law and order.
Right.
There's a long and deadly tradition of far-right militia-type violence in the United States, and this threat has now been given a huge boost by the state.
Right.
The kangaroo court presided over Judge Bruce Schroeder was a disgrace and greatly enhanced Rittenhouse's chances of acquittal by a nearly all-white jury.
Yep.
The process was rigged from the start and grew even more absurd with each passing day. No doubt Rittenhouse was the aggressor. Even before the trial began, it was clear that Judge Schroeder was biased in favor of Rittenhouse. He decided to grant the defense's request to ban the use of the term victims to describe the people who Rittenhouse shot.
Go ahead.
At the same time, Schroeder denied the prosecution's request to similarly ban the use of words like looters, rioters, and arsonists to describe the same people. Even if the murder conviction was in doubt because of the biased nature of the trial, it seemed completely obvious that Rittenhouse would at least be found guilty of illegally possessing a firearm since he was 17 at the time of the killings as a minor and not allowed to carry his own gun. But Schroeder threw out this charge before the jury could even consider it. In an extraordinary move, Schroeder essentially overruled the Wisconsin state legislature and invalidated the entire law in question because of a technicality related to how the language in the statute was written. No one can honestly say that a black teenager on trial for multiple murders would have been given the same treatment in any courtroom in America. The strenuous effort to show Rittenhouse is presumed innocent, the built-in advantages of his lawyers and favorable media coverage cannot be more different from the racist judicial railroading that working-class black youth and others from oppressed communities are routinely the victim of. But Rittenhouse is a white racist vigilante and therefore entitled to ample protection in the U.S. justice system. The U.S. capitalist ruling class has long relied on fascist, white supremacist paramilitary violence at crucial moments to stabilize their system. This goes as far back as the end of the Civil War, when the Ku Klux Klan and similar organizations employed brutal terrorism.
Go ahead.
In the early 1900s, the Klan was revived to repress growing labor militancy and the struggle, and encouraged by the state, the people's movement of the 1960s and 70s. Rittenhouse's acquittal is a clear signal from the government that vigilantes who kill anti-racist protesters or any kind of progressive demonstrator will enjoy impunity.
That's right.
All they have to do is say they feared for their lives and claim self-defense.
Sounds familiar.
But the movement against racism will not be terrorized into passivity.
Come on.
In Kenosha and throughout the country, protesters are now hitting the streets to show that they will not be silenced, this grave affront to justice. So where do we go from here? The police have failed us, the Democratic politicians have failed us, the judge, the jury have failed to carry out justice. It is up to the power of the people to find the solutions to replace this capitalist white supremacist system.
That's right.
A system that is designed to fail those who seek out justice and racial equity.
Yes.
We must continue to organize to honor the memory of Anthony and JoJo.
All right.
We must continue to organize to fight for justice for Jacob Blake.
Go ahead.
Yes.
It is up to us to imagine a new Kenosha. The ideas start right here, but they must be carried out and built upon on a daily basis.
All right.
The mechanisms and people that continue to terrorize and oppress us are highly organized and well-funded. It is up to the good citizens of Kenosha and across this country to counterbalance them and tip the scales in our favor with our power and resilience.
That's right.
I encourage everyone to find me after this program so we can keep building people power, to not only imagine a new Kenosha, but to build it.
All right. All right. All right.
Thank you, and all power to the people.
Next coming up is one of the young men who's been one of the great organizers here in Kenosha before and after and during. Brother Kyle was awesome, but I hope you heard what that brother said, that they sent $2 million plus to dress that young man in a suit every day, to give him the Opie Taylor haircut that he has, to house his mother. Where's the people that want to send money for the other side? Please get in contact with LOC, leaders of Kenosha, so we can continue to fight on the streets and in the courtroom. Come on up here, John.
My name's Kyle Flood. I am a former school board member and a local activist. I'm here. You'll see the signs around me that say Reimagine Kenosha.
All right.
You'll see that all week, and I'm here to explain what that means. Today we gather to stand in solidarity with Joseph Rosenbaum, Anthony Huber, Gage Groskowitz, Jacob Blake, Crystal Kaiser, Donna Matthews, and so many more who have had justice stolen from them. Today we come together to ask why some individuals believe the lives of JoJo and Anthony didn't matter, simply due to partisanship or their mistakes they made in their past. For a year and a half now, since the murder of George Floyd, through the shooting of Jacob Blake, and still today, Kenosha had an uprising, and we are still having one. We as activists have dedicated our lives to the movement, and we do so to stay true to the American values so many extreme factions try to hijack. We must recognize that we are on the right side of history, no matter what those motivated by hate say. We should recognize the founders of this country ensured our First and Second Amendment rights for a reason. Our vital free speech rights allow us to have this fight, and in my opinion, the Founding Fathers would more so view the protesters who last year battled the government-funded police violence as an American militia protected by the Second Amendment than those who hide behind the word they don't understand. The American values of those who have been protesting since the murder of George Floyd, and some since Ferguson, are more in line with the purpose of our country's founding than any so-called militia member who seeks to intimidate, assault, or murder Americans exercising their First Amendment rights. And like Anthony Huber, we are not afraid. A murderer walks free, and the families of the victims, yes, the victims, are left seeing that our nation's justice system has not valued their loved ones' lives. Heroes like Anthony Huber and Joseph Rosenbaum go without recognition for their heroics, and it is wrong yet expected. We need to rapidly address and change our systems to live up to our values. We need to reimagine what our community looks like after this, and then achieve this new reimagining of Kenosha by staying in the streets, changing laws, and electing a new generation of leaders that puts an end to the good old boy politics of Kenosha and of Wisconsin.
All right.
We can no longer live in an America where there are two justice systems. One for wealthy white men and one for everyone else.
Yes, sir.
These differences display themselves in our local justice system in the cases of Crystal Kaiser, Donna Matthews, Timothy Carson, who was just sentenced yesterday to 11 years in prison. We can no longer live in an America that doesn't recognize that Black Lives Matter.
Go ahead.
We need fair trials. Judges continuously cherry-pick evidence that they want to include based on their own bias. This was evident in the Rittenhouse case when they did not allow evidence of Rittenhouse's violent thoughts and behaviors. It is also evident with the Donna Matthews case, where evidence about battered woman syndrome and the abuse Donna went through was gaslit and not allowed in the trial. Crystal Kaiser, a black woman, is not even afforded the same right to argue as Kyle Rittenhouse, as the same DA's office who prosecuted Rittenhouse and did not debate his self-defense claim tells Crystal she doesn't have the same right.
Come on.
We demand Rittenhouse be federally, financially, and morally held accountable. We also demand that Donna receive a more and fair trial. Another fair trial that charges against Crystal Kaiser be dropped completely. Furthermore, we demand that every law enforcement agency involved in inciting a riot in our community and creating the Rittenhouse scenario be fully held accountable and potentially prosecuted. As we reimagine a Kenosha where this justice system is possible, we must also reimagine the circumstances that led to this local and national tragedy in Kenosha. We must reimagine what safety and policing looks like in our community. We can no longer stand for dirty and inhumane cages in our jails where inmates continuously die from COVID infections. We must reimagine a Kenosha that no longer criminalizes addiction or poverty. We must reimagine a system where cops don't shoot innocent black men in the back 7 times and get away with it. We must reimagine a Kenosha where police never launch tear gas and non-lethal rounds or drive their military-grade vehicles at protesters to incite a riot. Close your eyes and imagine if police had handled things differently. Maybe Gage would have never felt the need to be a medic. Maybe Anthony would have never felt the need to intervene with an active shooter. Let's reimagine our public education system. Let's imagine a public education system that teaches...
Give it up.
Let's imagine public schools that teach financial literacy, honest history curriculum, and anti-racism education. Imagine public schools with teachers who look like their students, where students learn world languages and cultures, and where teachers and students have a voice in decision-making. Imagine if schools fully taught civics. Imagine that students learned that when Thomas Jefferson, a slave owner himself, wrote the Declaration of Independence, he stole the words of John Locke. Locke wrote that all men have the right to life, liberty, and property. When our founding document was written, Jefferson changed property to pursuit of happiness because he understood that the pursuit of happiness, equality, and justice superseded property rights every single time. Close your eyes and imagine a world where Kyle Rittenhouse received that education. And let's also imagine a Kenosha where everyone has a warm place to rest their head and the food to fill their stomach. Imagine the homeless individuals suffering from addiction are actually given shelter and the help they need. And when you imagine that, hold the Shalom Center, the Hope Council, and the DARE program accountable to the stereotypes they promote. Close your eyes and imagine that JoJo had access to better health care, to a home. Imagine that he never had to be out there without his medication that fateful night when he would decide to run at an armed individual who was threatening the Zeminski's lives. Reimagine this community in a way that prevents the tragedies we must all live with our entire life. It's time for us to put forward our vision. We can no longer accept the mass uptown gentrification plans hidden behind the word innovation or the elected leaders who shut down the city's only wet shelter.
Yeah!
In April of next year, we must vote and we must push out the old guard and elect a new era of leadership for Kenosha. When we do that, we the people must demand that our reimagining of Kenosha happens. And it does not stop with the issues I mentioned today. Please close your eyes. Everybody close your eyes and imagine a Kenosha where you and your family and your friends and even your enemies can thrive. Reimagine Kenosha in a way that stays true to the values this nation has always promised. And stop letting violent, radical racists hijack the idea of America.
That's right.
Reclaim America, because the values of those standing here are on the right side of history. Close your eyes and reimagine Kenosha. Close your eyes and reimagine Wisconsin.
All right.
Close your eyes and reimagine America just as the founders intended us to do. Justice for Jacob, justice for Anthony, justice for JoJo, justice for Gage, justice for Crystal, justice for Donna, justice for all.
Yes, sir.
No justice!
No peace!
No justice!
No peace!
No justice!
No peace!
Everybody grab a skateboard for Anthony today.
All right, all right.
Anthony and JoJo!
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 Justice!
No peace!
No justice!
No peace!
No justice!
No peace!
No justice!
No peace!
Justice!
No peace!
So we're getting ready to get to marching unless we got a couple of questions. We're going to do what we came to do today, which is put boots to the street. Is there any questions?
You talked about economic pressure here. Is there a plan for any kind of boycott?
Well, just on the peripheral, anybody that had anything to do with the militia, we're going to shut you down. We're going to find out who had to do with the militia, we're going to shut them down. We're going to find out who funded the militia, we're going to shut them down. Then we're going national, we're going to get the pillow guy and shut him down. Anybody who's involved with pushing this idiotic mess over on our people, we're going to find you and we're going to do harm to you economically.
There will be a national boycott.
Yes,
There will be a national
boycott.
economic boycott that we'll be announcing in the days ahead, because we know that in a capitalistic society, capital makes a difference. There will be basketball games shut down.
Go ahead.
There will be football games
Go ahead.
shut down. There will be disruption, economic disruption
Call it.
behind this.
Call it.
The calculus that all we're going to do is march is a miscalculus. We know that there are individuals that help fund a $2 million legal defense
Call
fund.
them out.
We know that there are individuals that are fundraising right now
Go ahead.
and using Kyle Rittenhouse as a means of politicizing and weaponizing
Absolutely.
him against black and brown people,
Absolutely.
against poor people, against LGBTQ people,
ahead.
against immigrants, against the homeless and the uninsured.
Go ahead.
There is an economic boycott coming, and America needs to wake up.
Really quickly, Justin, if you could tell our viewers, when you say justice, what does that mean?
Well, justice to us means the changing of the system, the changing of the guard. This system is corrupt. We must end that corruption to get our brothers and sisters out of jail. For those who aren't in, ain't going in. And we're gonna push people out, and we're gonna be here. We're gonna work together economically and form a voting bloc that'll give anybody a headache that if they don't come talk to us, they won't be going to the White House. We gotta get marching. We thank all y'all for coming out. Peace and love. Thank you very much. Everybody who's marching, please get on that corner. Our security set up.
Anybody can take a sign. Anybody want a sign? Take a sign.
And I was like, no, I lost my fucking spot. Right? I lost my spot in that one spot, and I was like,
One more sign. Two more signs. One sign.
Excuse me.
Not to understand our fury. I can't hear you. They don't have the right to have coffee, donuts, and food and not understand our fury today. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. No justice. No peace. Donna Matthews. 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 Julius Jones. Julius Jones. Julius Jones. Julius Jones. Julius Jones. Julius Jones. One more time. I know everybody's got a phone on them. Somebody Google who was the family that just got a murder case conviction on a police officer in Kansas City. Can somebody Google that for us? My brother killed us if we don't say this. Somebody Google that for us. We just had a victory in Kansas City for a police officer going to jail for murder. Can somebody Google who that family was? Anybody? All right, thank you. Hang on. Right. We want to get it right. While we wait for it, Julius Jones! Julius Jones! Free Crystal Kaiser! 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 Did we get the answer back there?
With the Lamb family?
The Lamb family! Justice for the Lamb family!
Justice for the Lamb family!
Justice for the Lamb family!
Justice for the Lamb family!
Justice for the Lamb family!
Justice for the Lamb family!
Justice for the Lamb family!
Justice for the Lamb family! Justice for the Lamb family! Justice for the Lamb family! Justice for the Lamb family! Justice for the Lamb family!
Justice for the Lamb.
I found this cookie in the trash.
Yeah, I witnessed.
No justice! No peace! 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 No justice! No peace!
United we stand!
But we got a long road to travel to get justice for everybody. Everybody. And in order to do that, we must stay safe. We must be well. Put your mask on before you try to put somebody else's mask on. We hope when you call somebody and say, hey, how are you doing? Pause, take a moment, let them share. We've got a lot of brothers and sisters going through some mental issues right now. My dear beloved in Chicago had a little breakdown. The brother brought out the 16-shot tape. We never would have known that that man got 16 shots in the back the way he did without the brother with him. So everybody, please check on everybody that's out here. Love on each other. Respect on each other. Baby, this is high intense stuff we're dealing with. So if somebody's not having a good day and they snap off, give them a little room, and they go back about 30 minutes later and give them a big hug. We cannot stand to lose each other. Do you understand that? Yeah. We are already a minute number as it is, but we're making a hell of a lot of noise. Give it up for yourselves! We love you! We love you! We love you! We love you too! We love you too! So please keep checking our block page. We work with all these beautiful organizations that are out here to bring us back together. Next time, bring a friend, bring 2 or 3, because if they really love you, then they got to understand what we fight for. It's important that you leave here today knowing that a movement has begun. This beautiful sister here proves that JoJo was loved. Proves that he was somebody. In spite of how they demonized and lowered his life and his word. But the fact of the matter is Anthony and JoJo engaged lives matter. I said their lives matter. I said their lives matter. Their lives matter. This sister having the courage to come out and march with us. Make some noise for we got a
Kenosha community now moving forward after the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. The trial ended Friday when the jury announced a not guilty verdict. Cassidy Williams has more on what happened and what's next.
After the sounds of flames in August 2020 and 3 weeks of screaming outside the courthouse this November, Jason Becker is enjoying the quiet of the Kenosha lakefront.
Kenosha is a great city, it's a great town, and there's a lot to offer.
There's only a few national media outlets left. Civic Park clearing out after what felt like a year and a half in the national spotlight.
It's kind of overwhelming, actually, because people aren't used to this notoriety.
The Rittenhouse trial lasting longer than anticipated. 1 day to select the jury, 8 days of at times heated testimony and debate.
That's basic law. It's been basic law in this country for 40 years, 50 years. I have no idea why you would do something like that.
Including Rittenhouse himself taking the stand.
That's what
Then 1 day to finalize jury instructions and argue about evidence. A day for closing arguments, and then 3.5 days of deliberation before
not guilty.
After some demonstrations and one arrest Friday night, Saturday in Kenosha was quiet. Becker hoping the city learns from what happened and becomes better for it.
I'm hoping that nothing happens forward and we can just build Kenosha together as one big family, actually.
As of Saturday evening, a National Guard spokesperson said 500 troops are still on standby if needed. Reporting from Kenosha, Cassidy Williams, Fox 6 News.
Rittenhouse could still face civil lawsuits from the families of the deceased or from Gage Goshkoitz, who survived being shot in the arm. Meanwhile, he himself, that's Rittenhouse, could end up being a plaintiff. Some have speculated he has a case for defamation against President Biden and many in the media for calling him things like a white supremacist, a murderer, and a domestic terrorist.
A dramatic scene in Oslo, Norway. A half-naked man waving a knife after reports of several people injured. Police decide to ram their car into him to try to get the situation under control. After that failed to work, several shots were fired, and the man later died at a hospital. Norway police told local media they do not suspect the incident was terror-related. Tonight, the harrowing new images of that deadly concert horror in Houston. Scenes of people falling to the ground, struggling to get up. An 18-year-old pleading with a camera crew to stop the show. The new details we're learning tonight about the investigation. Tonight, the dramatic new drone video revealed for the first time at the Kyle Rittenhouse trial in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Prosecutors showing the jury images of Rittenhouse shooting and killing a protester and later resting their case. Now the question tonight is, will Rittenhouse take the stand in his own defense? And when might we see a verdict? The major new headline on boosters. Pfizer asks the government for approval for boosters for all adults 18 and older. Tonight, the backlash facing NFL superstar Aaron Rodgers, accused of misleading the public about his vaccination status. Today, he says he takes full responsibility for comments he made about being vaccinated. Tonight, our conversation with the Surgeon General, who has a message for the NFL superstar.
You know, I don't look to my electrician for health information, and I don't look to my doctor to advise me about my electrical system in my house.
Tonight, the apocalyptic scene, a sandstorm in what used to be the jungle, and why everyone needs to pay attention to what is happening in the heart of the Amazon. Thousands of species no longer have a home. Our Matt Gutman with a fascinating report from the disappearing jungle.
Everything you see around me is part of what's called La Pampa. Until just a couple of years ago, all of this was pristine Amazon rainforest. But hundreds of gold miners were given concessions here, turning this into a vast desert.
And he's one of the world's biggest entertainers, our TJ Holmes, with Hollywood superstar Will Smith back home in Philadelphia, where it all started. And showing a side of him he's never felt comfortable revealing to the public.
I was born and raised here, and Philly is stamped on my heart.
What you talk about in this book, that you were carefully
crafted Will Smith this thing. And you say clearly, that's not me. This book is about me. And you've been fooling us for 30 years?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. Tonight, we are tracking a major step toward all American adults having access to booster shots. And one of the most recognizable athletes in the country is now apologizing after questioning the science behind the vaccines. But some say the damage may have already been done. But we do begin with the new harrowing images out of that concert horror in Houston and the increasing questions tonight about why the concert was not halted after scenes of chaos like this. Today, the fire chief put the onus on Travis Scott, saying that he should have ended the concert earlier. Instead, it continued on for a grueling 40 minutes, and we are now learning just some heartbreaking details about some of the youngest who were in attendance, including a 9-year-old who is fighting for his life tonight. Houston's mayor tells ABC News there are certain changes that can be made, but we can't bring back a loved one who is no longer here. Marcus Moore leads us off once again.
Tonight, new videos from the Astroworld Music Festival revealing just how tightly packed fans were near that stage to see Travis Scott. In their criminal investigation, authorities in Houston are trying to figure out what led to the surge that has now killed at least 8 people, all younger than 30. Houston's mayor telling me every aspect of the disaster is under review.
Looking at the security operation plan, looking at where people were positioned, looking at how this whole area was designed.
At what is now a crime scene, investigators today poring over mounds of personal belongings left behind. 50,000 people watched as Scott hit the stage just after 9 p.m. Friday. Fans swarming to the front to see the rapper. Concert goers say they had very little room to move or breathe. 18-year-old Aiden Cruz was at the concert with victim Brianna Rodriguez. This video shows him climbing a platform to plead with the camera operator to stop the show.
I went up to him, begging him because my friend's in that pit. It was just fear.
These new images from inside a heap of trapped bodies captures concert goers crying out for help. One person seen dialing 911. The show continuing until 10:10, nearly 40 minutes after police say reports of injuries started coming in. Tonight, new documents obtained by ABC News showing the festival's operations plans did not specifically account for a crowd surge, and that only the executive producer and festival director had the authority to stop the show. But today, Houston's fire chief saying Scott should have called an end to the concert once he saw what was taking place in front of the stage.
If he notices something that's going on, he can certainly pause that performance, turn on the lights, and said, hey, we're not going to continue until this thing is resolved.
It wasn't clear if Scott was aware or informed of the severity of the situation. And 9-year-old Ezra Blunt was at the concert with his dad and trampled by the crowd. He's now in the hospital fighting for his life.
He's a small, innocent child. He didn't deserve that. He didn't deserve it at all. He's just coming into town to see one of his favorite artists.
So many left heartbroken as a result of this concert. Marcus Moore joins us now from Houston. Marcus, officials were asked again today about why the concert wasn't stopped right away. What did they have to say?
Well, Lindsay, both the mayor and the police chief have said that with a crowd of 50,000 people, you could have some in that audience who are aware of what's happening, and then thousands of people in another part of the crowd who have absolutely no idea. And to abruptly tell them to leave, they said, could have made the situation worse. Lindsay.
Marcus Moore, our thanks to you. Next, to the request that could impact millions of vaccinated Americans, Pfizer is officially asking the FDA to authorize booster shots for emergency use for all Americans 18 and older. ABC's Stephanie Ramos has more.
Tonight, Pfizer asking the FDA to expand authorization for its booster for all Americans 18 and over, pointing to fresh data showing a third shot increased protection against symptomatic disease to 95% across all age groups. It comes nearly 2 months after a public debate over boosters for all Americans, when an FDA advisory committee voted down a similar request from Pfizer.
Dr. Chatterjee voted no. Dr. Perlman voted no. Dr. Gans voted no.
The CDC instead limiting Pfizer and Moderna boosters for people 65 and over and adults at high risk from health conditions or work.
People should be reassured that these vaccines continue to work and are working well, and that if you've gotten 2 doses of the vaccine, and if you're not currently eligible for a booster, you're protected.
For now, only people who got the Johnson & Johnson 1 shot are eligible for a booster, regardless of age. But in recent days, health officials signaling all vaccinated Americans can expect a green light for booster shots soon.
It will be very likely that everyone will be able to get a booster within a reasonable period of time.
Stephanie Ramos joins us now. Stephanie, there's some reporting tonight that this decision on Pfizer boosters could come a little faster than last time.
There is, Lindsay. The New York Times is reporting that the FDA is not expected to call for another advisory panel and is likely to just authorize the request, possibly before Thanksgiving. But tonight we are waiting for official word from the FDA. Lindsay.
Stephanie Ramos, thanks so much. Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers appears to be in damage control mode following the comments that he made after testing positive for COVID and later confirming that he was unvaccinated. The uproar stems, of course, from the fact that he had previously said that he was, quote, immunized. Tonight, Rodgers is taking responsibility for what he is calling his misleading words and saying, I do realize I'm a role model. Here's ABC's Trevor Roll.
MVP quarterback Aaron Rodgers is playing defense tonight.
I made some comments that people might have felt were misleading. And, to anybody who felt misled by those comments, I take full responsibility.
After testing positive for COVID last week, the NFL superstar igniting a firestorm Friday when he confirmed he was unvaccinated, claiming to be in the crosshairs of the woke mob and saying when he was asked about his vaccine status in August, this answer wasn't a lie.
Are you vaccinated, and what's your stance on vaccinations?
Yeah, I've been immunized.
In the fallout, healthcare company Provoke ending its partnership with Rodgers and State Farm Insurance standing by the QB but significantly scaling back his appearances in their commercials this past weekend. Rodgers has also been eviscerated by some other athletes. Basketball legend Kareem Abdul-Jabbar writing, Aaron Rodgers didn't just lie and threaten the health of those around him, he also damaged professional sports. And while Rodgers is not only a top athlete, he expanded his already high profile this year, substituting as host of Jeopardy, but tonight saying he wants to get back to basics.
I'm an athlete. I'm not an activist. So I'm going to get back to doing what I do best. And that's playing ball.
And Rodgers now says he is feeling better, but there's still a small possibility he won't play on Sunday once again. He still thinks the decision not to get the vaccine was in his body's best interest, but he says he understands not everybody is going to understand that. Lindsay?
Trevor, thank you. We are joined now by U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy, whose office today released a step-by-step toolkit to help people combat misinformation about COVID vaccines in their own close circles. Dr. Murthy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course, happy to be with you.
So over the summer, you issued an advisory calling misinformation a public health threat. Explain what you hope to achieve with this toolkit in trying to combat some of the misinformation out there about vaccines in particular.
We've seen it clearly during the COVID-19 crisis where misinformation has misled people. It's sown doubt and confusion and has led many people to make decisions that have ultimately harmed their health. What we are doing is putting out a series of concrete tools that individuals can use and community leaders across this country in order to start taking action in their own lives against health misinformation. We have tools here, for example, that healthcare providers, that teachers, faith leaders, and other communities can use for the millions of people that they serve around the country. And the toolkit has, for example, tips on how people can have conversations with their family members about misinformation. It has instructions and guidance for them on how to recognize health misinformation when it presents itself. Altogether, we hope that this will help people understand what's true, what's not, and how to navigate what's become a very, very difficult, complex, and polluted health information environment.
We certainly are aware of that, and as you well know, many who are vaccinated have simply become frustrated with the unvaccinated for not listening to the science, the evidence that's already out there on the effectiveness of the vaccines. So how difficult is it to have those conversations and be sympathetic with people who are still hesitant or outright resistant to the vaccines?
Well, it's such an important question, Lindsay. One thing I'll say is that I understand, those who are vaccinated who are eager and frustrated that we don't have more people vaccinated. Well, we made a lot of progress. We still have millions more to get vaccinated. But the key to ultimately helping people get access to accurate information has to do with the kind of conversations we have. Shame and blame doesn't work to help change people's minds or open their minds up to new information. What we have to do is listen. We have to understand their points of view. We have to recognize what their ultimate outcomes are that they're driving toward, which I think are actually relatively similar to those of many of us who are vaccinated, which is that we all want to be healthy. We want to protect our families. But it's also important to recognize that misinformation is very sophisticated these days. It comes in all different shapes, forms, and sizes, and many of us can fall prey to it if we're not careful. And that's why I don't fully blame those who have been subject to misinformation and misled by it. But now we all have a responsibility to recognize that because we have information, people we trust in our lives, that gives us the power to connect those people to accurate information. And especially now, with the advent of a vaccine for kids 5 through 11, it is absolutely important, more so than ever, that we make sure that parents and kids have access to accurate information so that they can make the best decisions about how to protect their children from COVID-19.
Now, the White House put out a video of you having one of those conversations with a man named Brock. And over the course of nearly 20 minutes, you respond to his questions. And ultimately, he does decide to take the vaccine. And at the end, he jokes, maybe you just need to have one of these conversations with every person in the country. Would you say that it's a fair critique that most Americans simply don't take the time for that 20-minute conversation when they can browse online for information, and that most doctors don't take the time either?
Well, I think it's been tough for many people to figure out where to get accurate information. One of the messages that I shared earlier in the rollout of our vaccine for kids 5 through 11 is I wanted to warn parents against the wave of misinformation about kids' vaccines that's already arriving at their door, in their inboxes and text threads and their social media feeds. What's essential now is that parents get answers to their questions from credible, trusted sources. Those include doctors and nurses, includes your local children's hospital, local Department of Health, the CDC. Just because you see something online doesn't mean it's true. We've got to make sure that we're getting information from the right sources, because ultimately our health and the health of our children depend on it.
And what would you say to those who remain skeptical, not about the effectiveness of the vaccine, but they are concerned about the long-term potential health effects of the vaccine?
What people have to recognize also is that the risks, are not just to consider about the vaccine itself, but there were risks in not getting vaccinated. And in fact, the risks of not getting vaccinated are that of getting COVID and then suffering the growing consequences that we're learning of COVID-19. So ultimately, any decision we make about any medicine, and this has always been true, is a question of measuring risks versus benefits. And what we've learned about this vaccine over a good long year of giving it to millions of people in the US and around the world is that the benefits are really, really high, and the risks are very, very low. And that is ultimately a good trade-off, if you will.
And last question for you, Dr. Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers today said that he took responsibility for anyone who felt misled about his comments on whether he was vaccinated. But in prior interviews, he had spread misinformation about the vaccines, including about whether there's a connection to fertility concerns. What's your reaction to his comments on why he was unvaccinated, and how damaging is it when someone of his prominence in particular is spreading bad information and touting unproven treatments?
Well, I think a couple of things are important to say here. One is that this is a moment where all of us have to recognize the power that our voices have. We may have the power to influence our family members and our friends, or we might be an individual who has millions of followers, who look up to him or her and have the power to influence all of them. We've got to be mindful of what we say in public spaces. The second thing is we've got to be extraordinarily careful about who we rely on for information about COVID-19 and health. I don't look to my electrician for health information, and I don't look to my doctor to advise me about my electrical system in my house. We've got to recognize that people who are medical experts are the ones that we should be looking to provide medical advice. And if we follow those kind of guidelines, I do think that most people will get access to the kind of information that will help them make the right decision for themselves and for their families about the vaccine.
U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy, we thank you so much for being here with us, Doctor.
Well, thanks so much for having me. Take care and stay well.
Now to the murder trial of Kyle Rittenhouse, the teenager who crossed state lines and shot 3 people at a protest in Kenosha, Wisconsin, killing 2 of the people. Today, new drone video was played in court, and we also heard more details about how one of the victims was shot. Here's ABC's Alex Perez.
Prosecutors are showing jurors today key new evidence in Kyle Rittenhouse's murder trial. Tonight, drone video that captured the moments Rittenhouse shot and killed Joseph Rosenbaum at close range. Rosenbaum was shot several times, but today the medical examiner who performed Rosenbaum's autopsy testified he believes the shot that killed him hit him in the back. And prosecutors saying Rosenbaum was falling forward because of his injuries.
If an individual is moving forward, and they sustained that injury that entered by the groin and went to the hip, could that cause them to fold forward?
That's possible.
But the defense then disputing that notion, suggesting Rosenbaum wasn't falling, but instead lunging for Rittenhouse's gun, asking the medical examiner if that was a possibility.
Okay, so if I was charging like a bull and diving, that would be consistent.
It would be.
Rittenhouse looking away when jurors were showed graphic autopsy pictures today.
The state formally rests its case.
Prosecutors resting their case this afternoon, the defense calling to the stand others who say they were there to patrol the streets alongside Rittenhouse. Nicholas Smith saw Rittenhouse after the shooting, describing him as sweating and pale.
He repeats, I just shot someone. Over and over, and I believe at some point he did say he had to shoot someone.
Defense also calling Joanne Fiedler, who testified that Rosenbaum made threats that evening.
Rosenbaum started shouting back at us that he's gonna, pardon me, Judge, for saying this and everybody else, but he was gonna kill us and cut our hearts out.
Really graphic testimony there. Alex Perez joins us now. Alex, any indication just yet if Kyle Rittenhouse will actually take the stand in his own defense?
Yeah, Lindsay, there actually has been no clear indication just yet if Kyle Rittenhouse will testify in his own defense. The defense attorney has been kind of coy, not answering directly when asked that question by reporters. So at this point, now that the defense has started presenting their case, it remains unclear if he will take the stand, Lindsay.
Really some heavy material to digest in that courtroom. How does the jury seem to be responding to it?
Yeah, Lindsay, a lot of graphic material in the courtroom, particularly today, a lot of graphic autopsy photos. The jury does seem engaged. They seem to be paying attention to everything that is being said and taking a lot of notes, particularly today during that medical examiner's testimony. They seem to be taking notes sort of furiously on their notepads, Lindsay. So clearly they are paying attention, it seems, to what's happening inside that courtroom.
Appreciate your observations and insight there. Alex Perez, thanks so much. We turn now to Washington, where the House committee investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol has issued 10 more subpoenas, some to those very close to the former president, including senior advisor Stephen Miller and Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany. At least 35 subpoenas overall have been issued so far, but will any of the people testify? Here's ABC's chief Washington correspondent, Jonathan Karl.
The January 6th committee is zeroing in on Donald Trump's inner circle, issuing subpoenas today for close advisors who spent the most time with him in the White House, who saw and heard what he did right before and during the Capitol riot. Among them, some familiar faces. Kayleigh McEnany, the former White House press secretary, she was pushing lies about voter fraud in the days after the election.
There are very real claims out there that the campaign is pursuing.
Also, senior advisor Stephen Miller, John McEntee, who at just 29 years old became one of Trump's most powerful and fiercely loyal aides, and Molly Michael, his personal secretary, who sat right outside the Oval Office. Today's subpoenas followed those issued yesterday for Michael Flynn, Rudy Giuliani's associate Bernie Kerik, and several campaign officials, including a woman named Angela McCallum, who the committee said was pressuring local lawmakers to overturn their state's election results, citing this voicemail to a Michigan state representative.
You do have the power to reclaim your authority and send a slate of electors that will support President Trump and Vice President Pence.
Jonathan Karl joins us now. And John, we've seen how previous Trump loyalists who've been subpoenaed by the January 6th committee have simply refused to testify. Should we expect more of the same from these individuals?
Lindsay, I think it's all going to come down to what happens with Steve Bannon. Bannon has defied his subpoena. He has been held in contempt by the House. And now the question is whether the Justice Department will prosecute him. If Justice prosecutes, the others will see that they could go to jail for failing to cooperate. If Justice decides not to prosecute or fails to prosecute, then the others will see that there is no price to pay for defying Congress. And when you look at the list, particularly the list today, which includes Johnny McEntee, Steve Miller, these are some of the most loyal of Trump's advisors, especially Johnny McEntee. This is somebody that was basically his enforcer within the executive branch, somebody that rooted out those who were not loyal enough, in his view, to Donald Trump. I see no way that somebody like Johnny McEntee is going to testify or cooperate at all with this committee unless he is forced to, unless he is facing jail time if he doesn't.
All right, Jonathan Karl, our thanks to you.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Now to the deadly epidemic of gun violence, which has spiked across the country during the COVID-19 pandemic. And tonight here on ABC News Live, ABC News Chief Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas will bring us a closer look at the problem as well as potential solutions. And Pierre is kind enough to join us. Now, Pierre, you asked the question in your half-hour-long special airing tonight, why is this spike in gun violence happening now? What struck you most from your reporting as far as the factors contributing to rising gun violence across the country and just how bad it's gotten?
Lindsay, I think I'm never lost on the fact of the sheer number of people that we're losing. Hundreds of people shot every week, thousands of people being killed annually. And you're right, last year, 2020, represented a surge not seen in perhaps 30 years. And when we talked to the experts and we talked to the victims, the one thing that kept coming up over and over again was the notion of the pandemic, the tension, the economic stress. It all played a role and created a perfect storm, if you will. It caused a spike in domestic violence because many of the victims were locked in close quarters with the perpetrators. It caused a spike in terms of, just people being angry and frustrated. All the above, mass shootings, virtually every sector of gun violence was up last year.
And you focus on not just the problem, but also potential solutions with a panel of experts. Give us a sense of what they say can work to help reduce gun violence.
There were two things. The main thing that they pointed out is that you need to figure out a way to keep guns out of the hands of people that should not have them. They talked about red flag laws, laws that basically state that if you are a danger to yourself or to others and that can be adjudicated, that you would not be allowed to either own or purchase weapons. They talked about the need for background checks, but they also talked about the need to empower police and communities to work better together in order to mitigate this problem.
Pierre Thomas, we will be watching. To all of our viewers, be sure to tune in tonight after Prime for American Epidemic, One Nation Under Fire. Pierre's half-hour look exploring gun violence in America right here on ABC News Live. And when we come back, the shocking mistake two mothers say a fertility clinic made that resulted in them delivering someone else's baby, how it all unraveled. TJ Holmes catches up with megastar Will Smith on his life growing up in Philly, his marriage to Jada, and a lot more. But up next, our climate series Saving Tomorrow continues. This image of a sandstorm in what was once lush jungle is just part of the problem in the Amazon.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, we're gonna move back. Let's move back.
We're surrounded by people
squeezing into this bomb shelter.
We're on an urgent delivery run. Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming